Let me be honest with you. If you've ever tried to speak English and your brain suddenly froze, you are not alone. You know some vocabulary, you remember some grammar, but when it's time to actually say something, your mind goes completely blank, your tongue feels heavy, and all you can think is, what do I say now? The problem isn't you. The problem is the way you've been taught to think in English. Most learners are told to build sentences word by word, like doing math in their head while talking. That is slow, stressful, and totally unnatural. Native speakers don't talk like that. They don't stand there thinking subject, verb, object before they speak. They use something much smarter and much easier. Chunks. So, what is chunking? Chunking means you stop focusing on individual words and start learning English in ready-made pieces that native speakers use all the time. These pieces are called chunks. A chunk is a group of words that naturally go together and are usually used as one unit. Think of them like Lego blocks. You don't create each block from zero. You just connect the blocks you already have. For example, how's it going? Let me think. I don't think so. Long time no see. No worries. It depends. You don't break them in your head as, how is it going? You just say, how's it going? As one smooth sound. That is a chunk. One sound, one idea, one feeling. When you learn chunks, you are not just learning words. You're learning real-life expressions that you can use instantly in conversation without overthinking. Here's why this is powerful. When you speak with chunks, your brain stops working like a slow translator and starts working like a communicator. Instead of building every sentence from zero, you are just choosing the right blocks and putting them together. Chunk plus chunk plus chunk equals a natural sentence. That's exactly how native speakers do it. They don't think in grammar rules, they think in patterns. And the good news is, you can train your brain to do the same. In this video, we are going to use chunking to help you speak more fluently and more naturally. You will hear useful chunks, understand what they mean, and repeat them with me, like a shadowing partner. You don't need perfect grammar. You don't need to learn 1,000 new words. You just need a small collection of powerful, high-frequency chunks that you can use again and again in real conversations. So take a deep breath, relax your shoulders, and let's make a deal. From today, you stop trying to speak English word by word. From today, you start speaking in chunks. One chunk at a time, one sentence at a time. You will feel your English becoming smoother, faster, and more confident. Ready? Let's start building your English with better blocks. When you try to speak English word by word, your brain starts working way harder than it needs to. It's like your mind is running in low battery mode, trying to load vocabulary, grammar rules, sentence structure, and the don't mess this up anxiety all at the same time. No wonder you freeze. No wonder you pause. No wonder your sentences come out slow or broken. Your brain is basically saying, bro, chill. I can't process all this at once. That's exactly why chunking helps so much. When you speak in chunks, you're no longer forcing your brain to build every sentence from scratch. Instead, you grab a whole phrase that already works and drop it straight into the conversation. It's faster, easier, and honestly feels way more natural, like switching from manual mode to automatic. Think about it. Native speakers don't talk by assembling sentences one tiny piece at a time. They don't stop and think, okay, subject, verb, object, before speaking. They just use ready-made expressions their brain has heard thousands of times. I'm not sure. Let me check. No worries. That makes sense? These chunks are already stored in their memory as complete ideas. So when they talk, their brain doesn't do complicated grammar calculations. It just grabs a chunk, sends it to the mouth, and boom, smooth English. When you start using chunks, your brain finally gets to breathe. Instead of thinking about 10 different things at once, it thinks about one clear idea at a time. The pressure drops, the fear drops, and your fluency rises. Suddenly, you're not fighting English anymore. You're flowing with it. You're not translating, you're responding. You're not panicking, you're communicating. Chunking also helps you break the overthinking cycle. Overthinking happens when your brain tries to manage too much information at once. But when you use a chunk like, I don't think so, or hold on a second, your brain doesn't need to analyze anything. It just uses the phrase as is. That's why chunking feels so freeing. It lets you speak with confidence even if your grammar isn't perfect yet because the chunk itself is correct. You're basically borrowing native fluency while building your own. Another huge benefit is speed. Chunks make your mouth move faster because your brain isn't hesitating between every word. You say the whole expression in one smooth breath, and the more chunks you learn, the faster this becomes. Over time, your brain starts connecting chunks together like puzzle pieces. Chunk plus chunk plus chunk equals a fluent sentence. And you didn't have to sweat over grammar to make it happen. The best part? Chunking makes conversations feel less scary. You stop worrying about mistakes and start focusing on expressing yourself. You start sounding more natural. You feel more relaxed. Your confidence grows. And your English finally becomes something enjoyable instead of stressful. That's why chunking isn't just a speaking trick, it's a total upgrade for your brain. Now that you understand what chunking is and why it helps your brain, let's make it real. Theory is nice, but your English only changes when you know exactly what to say in everyday situations. So in this part, we're going to look at some super useful chunks that native speakers use all the time, and I'll show you when and how to use them so you can sound more natural, not like a textbook robot. Let's start with one of the most common ones. I'm on my way. You use this when someone is waiting for you or asking where you are. Instead of saying, now I am going to your place, which sounds slow and weird, you just say, I'm on my way. For example, your friend texts you, hey, where are you? You can reply, relax, I'm on my way. Short, clear, and very natural. Another powerful chunk is, let's keep in touch. You use this when you want to stay connected with someone after a meeting, a trip, or a course. Imagine you finish a summer camp, and you really like the people there. At the end you say, it was great meeting you. Let's keep in touch. You don't need to build a long sentence like, we should continue to contact each other in the future. Just this one chunk does the job perfectly. Here's another one you will hear in almost every argument or deep conversation. That's not the point. You say this when someone is focusing on the wrong thing. For example, you tell your friend, you're always late. And they answer, but I brought you coffee. You can say, that's not the point. I just want you to be on time. This chunk helps you sound calm but clear about what really matters. Now look at this one. That makes sense. This is a super friendly and useful chunk. You use it when you understand something and it feels logical. Your teacher explains a grammar rule, and suddenly you understand it. You can say, ah, that makes sense now. Or, your friend tells you why they changed their job, and you reply, yeah, that makes sense. With just 3 words, you show understanding, empathy, and connection. Another everyday chunk is, I'm not in the mood. This is perfect when you don't feel like doing something. Your friends want to go out, but you're tired and just want to stay home. Instead of giving a long explanation like, today I don't feel like going anywhere, you can say, sorry, I'm not in the mood tonight. It sounds natural and native-like. The important thing to notice is this. Each chunk is a complete message. You don't need to change it, you don't need to repair the grammar while speaking, you just plug it into real life. When you watch movies, series, YouTube, or listen to podcasts, you will start to hear these chunks again and again. That's not an accident. Native speakers love them because they are fast, clear, and expressive. Your job is not to invent new phrases. Your job is to steal the good ones, save them, and use them. The more chunks you collect, the easier conversations become. At some point, you won't be thinking, how do I translate this from my language? You will just feel, oh, this situation equals this chunk. And then the right phrase comes out of your mouth almost automatically. That is when English starts to feel fun instead of stressful. Learning chunks isn't about memorizing long lists or forcing yourself to study for hours. Chunking works only when you practice it the right way, with the right mindset. And the truth is, you don't need complicated tools or complicated grammar. You just need 4 simple steps that you can repeat every single day until chunking becomes a natural habit in your brain. So let's break down the real method that actually works. The first step is to listen carefully. Like, really carefully. Most learners watch movies or listen to podcasts just for entertainment, so their brain stays passive. But if you want chunking to work, you need to listen with intention. Listen for phrases that repeat. Listen for expressions that feel natural. Listen for lines that sound smooth or emotionally strong. These phrases are your gold. And when you start noticing them, you're already training your brain to hear English the way native speakers do. The second step is to write the chunks down. Don't trust your memory. Your brain forgets fast, especially when the phrase is new. Whenever you hear a chunk that feels useful, just write it in your notes. But don't only write the words. Write the situation, the emotion, maybe even the tone. For example, "I'm on my way," used when someone is waiting for me. Or, "That makes sense," used when something becomes clear. Adding context helps your brain remember when to use the chunk, not just what it means. This step is simple, but it's one of the most powerful habits for building fluency. The third step is to say the chunk out loud. And yes, that means actually using your voice, even if you're alone in your room like a secret agent practicing English missions. Reading silently doesn't build speaking fluency. But when you say a chunk out loud, your mouth learns the rhythm, your tongue feels the movement, and your brain forms a faster connection between thought and speech. Over time, repeating chunks out loud makes them automatic. You won't have to force them out. They will just show up when you need them. The fourth step is to review your chunks often. Chunks are like small plants. You can't just plant them once and expect a beautiful garden. You have to water them. Spend 5 minutes every few days reviewing your list. Read it, say it, imagine using it in real situations. Do this consistently, and the chunks start to become part of your natural English. And the cool part is, you don't need to learn too many at once. Just 2 or 3 new chunks a day is enough. That small number keeps you focused, makes the learning pleasant, and prevents overload. Slowly, your chunk collection grows, your speaking becomes smoother, and your brain stops panicking when it's time to talk. If you follow these 4 steps, listen intentionally, write everything down, say it out loud, and review regularly, you will build a powerful system that trains your brain to think in English automatically. And once you think in English, speaking becomes so much easier. That's the magic of chunking. Chunking is not just a learning technique, it's a mindset, a totally different way of thinking about English. When you use chunks, you stop fighting the language and start flowing with it. And this shift is exactly what makes speaking easier, faster, and more natural. Most learners try to speak by translating everything from their native language. They think of a sentence in their own language first, then try to rebuild it in English word by word. That process is slow, stressful, and full of mistakes. Your brain becomes a busy traffic jam of vocabulary, grammar rules, and panic. But when you use chunks, you switch to a different mode. You stop translating and start selecting. You stop building from zero and start combining pieces that already work. Suddenly, English stops feeling like math and starts feeling like conversation. Chunks work because your brain loves patterns. When it sees a short phrase used again and again, it saves it as a complete unit. And once it's saved, your brain can use it instantly without thinking. That's why native speakers sound fast. They're not faster thinkers, they just have more chunks ready to go. And the more chunks you collect, the more English you can produce without overthinking. It's like switching from typing every letter on a keyboard to using shortcuts. Everything becomes smoother. Everything becomes easier. Another reason chunking works is emotional. When you speak with chunks, your brain feels safer. You're not scared of making mistakes because the phrase is already correct. You don't worry about grammar because the whole chunk carries the grammar inside it. You don't feel stuck because you're using expressions that naturally fit real conversations. This reduces stress, and when your stress drops, your fluency rises. Your brain stops operating in fear mode and starts operating in communication mode. Chunking also helps you understand English better. When you listen to native speakers, you will begin to recognize patterns. Instead of hearing a long, confusing sentence, You start hearing familiar blocks. I'm not sure. Let me check. It's up to you. You never know. At the end of the day, to be honest, and many more. Suddenly, English stops sounding fast. It starts sounding familiar. And familiarity creates confidence. The more chunks you learn, the more your brain starts thinking in English without your permission. You'll find yourself responding faster, understanding quicker, and speaking with more flow. You won't stop mid-sentence. You won't search for grammar rules. You won't translate in your head. Instead, your brain will say, "Oh, I know this situation," and it will pick the right chunk automatically. That's when English starts to feel fun. That's when speaking becomes natural. That's when you finally feel free. Chunking isn't about knowing more. It's about using smarter pieces. It's not about studying harder. It's about training your brain to think in patterns, not puzzles. And once you make chunking your mindset, fluency becomes almost effortless. That's the real power of this method.